So welcome, folks. Happy to have you join us today. And we are just settling into our breath and noticing the world around us right now. Actually forgot to hit record, so we've already settled in a little bit here. So just allow yourself to soften and slow down, noticing the world around you, your own breath, and letting your gaze just soften in all directions. And when you think that you've gone as far as you can with your peripheral vision, when you feel like you've expanded it as far as you can, see if you can stretch it just a little bit more while you're still looking forward at that one point you find off in the distance. And so now what I'd like you to do is find that tree, whether it's a really familiar, ideally, it's a tree that's really familiar to you, like a really good friend in your yard. Or again, if you don't, I'll just use the word tree, but it might mean, it might mean a palm tree, it might mean a cactus, whatever it is for you in your yard. And if you can't see your most familiar and friendly tree right now, then just go ahead and find the one that you're most drawn to in this moment. And just start to take it in, noticing it first in the position or the gaze of owl eyes. So just starting to take in that tree from that perspective. And so today, the question that we're going to be asking ourselves is, what more is there? So I want you to go ahead, I'm going to invite you. You can play along if you want to. You could choose to do something else, of course, as always. So find just noticing that tree that you're looking at in this moment. And this could be challenging for some people because, we're getting more and more used to in our modern world having things change all the time. New screen, new screen, new screen, something new and exciting to look at. And so we're just going to allow ourselves to deepen our connection, to deepen our practice with just one being today. So just this one tree, and there may be many that hang out in that tree. Maybe there's birds that will join it, and who knows? But we're just going to stay with this one tree. That's all you have to do today for this next little bit that we're together, is just focus on this one tree. And it may be easier for some folks. We'll start with our eyes and then we'll slowly shift to our ears and then our felt sense. So first, let's just look at this tree. And from the perspective of owl eyes, you can shift back and forth between focused view and owl eyes. Ask yourself the question, what more is there to see? And we'll just stay in this place for the next couple of minutes. We'll be in silence. So some of you may find the longer that you spend with this one tree, that it may start to begin to feel a little impersonal to ask the question, what more is there to see? And the deeper you get to know something, the more you may want to refer to it as, an entity or as its own being. So you can speak to it as you, like, what more would you like to reveal to me today? If that's comfortable for you, some people may just feel fine just asking the general question of what more is there to see. And so we'll stay in silence a little bit longer, focusing just on our eyes right now. Good work. So now we can add another layer on with our ears. So you can ask the question, what more do you have for me to hear today? And just listen in that direction of the tree, and continue to gaze and continue to notice with your eyes what more there is to be revealed. But we'll add on that layer of our listening. And if you notice your mind start to wander, just continue to ask yourself that question. As soon as you feel your mind wandering to different thoughts, distracted thoughts, keep coming back to what more do you have for me to listen to, or what more do you have for me to see today? Hi, Della. So we've just gotten grounded, and what we're doing is we're focusing on we're finding a tree in our yard or something like a shrub that's familiar to us, and we're just asking the question of that shrub or tree, what more do you have to reveal to me? So we started with our eyes, and then we went to our ears, and now we're kind of doing a little bit of both. So just asking that question, what more do you have to reveal? And continuing to go deeper with that when you think you've reached your max with that, with the answers. Keep going with that. And now, for the next little bit of our practice, go ahead and let yourself focus on the felt sense. So, what more is there for me to feel today in connection with the tree that you're focusing on? And again, you can still stay connected to your ears and your eyes as well. And then as a way to begin to wrap up our practice, you can just ask the broad general question, is there anything else that you want to reveal to me today? Nice work, y'all. So take the next minute or two to offer your own sense of gratitude to those ones that you connected with today. And when you feel complete, you can come back here. And if folks need to head out, you're welcome to do so. Otherwise, you're also invited to stay for our chat at the end. And something I'll just say, just as a reminder, I know some of you, y'all get this at this point, but it's good just to hear it once in a while that even though these practices sometimes don't feel like they're connected to the birds, it's like more of a meditation sometimes, and they may be bird related. It is developing skills for yourself as a birder, as a nature lover, as someone who's deeply connected to the world around you. And the more you can start to tap into the world in this way, the better birder you'll become. So, if being a good birder is your intention and focus, then the more you practice these skills, the better you'll become. If being more deeply connected is your focus or something else, then I just think that these practices can really help you to deepen that for yourself. And my own personal experience is that the magic always starts to show up also when we start to go into these places. So it's pretty fascinating, the stories that come out of these practices. So I'd love to hear from you all and hear what came up for you today and how it was. Hi, Jacinth. I love seeing everyone all bundled up. That's awesome. Yeah, so if anyone wants to share, oh, look at it, all the snow out there where you are. That's awesome. Yay! So whoever wants to share, just go ahead and wave your hand and we can begin. Whatever your experience was that you'd like to share with the rest of the group, and even if it feels small to you, it's nice to hear. Just was that your hand? I wasn't sure if you wanted to share. No, okay. Linda, was that you? You're on mute still.
I was just scratching an itch. I'm sorry, but I do have something to share. It was the birds. I first focused on an aspen tree, and the feeders were just near the aspen tree, and the birds were all up high. When I put the feeders out, they go up high. The chickadees and the goldfinches. And so then when I was focusing on the aspen tree, and just listening. And then I could see with all eyes, I could watch the finches and the chickadees, and they would like just one at a time would come, grab something and leave, which the chickadees always do. The goldfinches usually stay, but they would do that too. And they kind of took turns. And then when everybody was still intact and I hadn't done anything, then they started to come back down all together and eat. So that was kind of interesting to watch.
Yeah, I love that you got to see a new behavior from them too, because I know
Yeah.
you watch that feeder a lot. You know, you have a lot of experience there, watching your birds. So that's
Yes.
awesome. I love that.
Yes.
And yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, for sure.
Oh, go ahead, Julia.
Julia and then Anne. Yeah, before Julia.
Okay, I do have the information about do bird feet get cold, but we can do that in a little bit. All right.
That's
Um,
awesome.
my tree I've mentioned before is my woodpecker tree, but it's an ash and it's not supposed to have lived this long,
Yeah.
but it has. And uh, there's a tall trunk and then there's a fork. And there's one side where there's been some dieback of limbs. And I also think they've been broken in windstorms and so on. And that's the woodpecker part. And dutifully, a red-bellied showed up. But on the other side, on the other fork, it's just still flourishing. And I've focused on woodpeckers being there, but they're, cardinals like to perch up high and sing, and the hummingbirds actually like, have a spot that they like to sit out there and see everything. And so I haven't given attention to the more alive section of the tree, but more on the woodpecker part. And so as I'm dealing with aging things, loss, arthritis in my hands and so on, it's a little bit of a metaphor. I notice in the woodpecker part that back from the end of the branch where it's died and there are holes and some is broken off, there are new shoots coming out. And it's also, this fork, I'm a Gemini, so okay, there's the still very alive part and there's the decaying part. Okay. But anyway, I saw it with some new eyes today. We had freezing rain uh, during the night, and there's this fringe of icicles all around the bird feeders. It's supposed to get up to 33 today, but not yet.
It's hot. Yeah. Um, wow, Julia, I that's so incredible, and I love that that you were saying that you've often focused more on the sort of the dead part of the tree because the woodpeckers and the other birds that use that. It's so interesting too that how many birds appreciate the old snags, the with the branches that are more exposed and a better vantage point and maybe have more life for them in that because there's the stuff that goes on when the tree is decaying and whatnot. So um, and so many layers there with the new shoots coming out, and I love that you got to see your tree in a different way today. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's beautiful. Miss Anne, go for it.
The tree I was looking at was a maple tree. But who's is Della the music or is that Julia has the music background? Well, I'm not very musical. I have 10 ears. I can sing a lullaby. But as I'm watching, you're watching the birds. And I thought it reminded me of an orchestra because when one bird moves, they all move. And it's like the strings in an orchestra. And then I got to thinking about that word orchestrate and orchestra. And then I said, no, go back to the tree. How does the tree feel? But it was just in your owl eyes, the things that were going on around this tree. And it happens even when I'm not looking at it. Yeah, it still goes on.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome.
but yeah, it was just like the symphony of the things. These birds would flutter here and these birds would flutter there. And
Mm.
what's that thing when all the birds, what's that
A
word?
murmuration.
Yeah, a murmuration. This wasn't
Murmuration.
exactly a murmuration, but it was an orchestra kind of a flowing movement. So yeah, there's my tree.
Oh, I love that image of an orchestra around your tree, that you get to see all the different, instruments in the symphony just happening and just
Yes.
imagining that like throughout the whole forest that there's all these orchestras happening around the trees out there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really magic. Thank you, Anne, for that image. Well, I'll share mine. So I chose, I didn't know which tree I was going to pick today, but there's this tree across the street in my neighbor's yard that sort of looks, I don't want to put any judgment on it, but it looks a little disheveled, and it's the tallest tree in his yard. And there's some kind of a vine growing on it, and I'm still being new here. I'm not sure if it's a native vine or if it looks like an invasive vine. And when I was first connecting with the tree, I don't often do this. I try not to put sort of like my own thoughts on things, but what came to me, and I don't always like to sort of go to the negative, but what did come to me was that like the tree really felt weighed down, like the tree, the sort of like the branches and the leaves have died off for the season, so it looks kind of naked, and but there's still like life on this vine, and the vine is just like, it just feels like it's like pulling heavily on this tree, and I just got this sense that like the tree would just be so relieved and just like sort of free and getting to like express itself if it could have those vines pulled off of it. And anyway, and I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just what was coming to me. But then what was cool is the deeper I kept going with it, because I did notice myself like want to look other places and get distracted and whatnot. But the more I kept looking at it, I just had other vantage points, and I was like, oh, it's the tallest tree in the yard, so it gets to feel things before any other tree does. And I just wondered if it might communicate. I know that trees have these beautiful communication systems within their roots, and who knows, however other many ways that we still haven't discovered yet. But I just imagine that this tree can feel things in a different way before the other trees all around here, because it's the tallest, in the center of this yard. And then I started looking up higher, and then of course there was like this cool red-shouldered hawk that came, and a little swallow flew by, and there's just some cool birds that were all the way up there, and it just brought my attention up higher than I might look. So yeah, I just really appreciated having that tree. I felt like the tree chose me this morning because it's a little disheveled. I wasn't as dry. I wasn't like, oh, it's not the prettiest tree in the yard or the most luscious. It was sort of this like, meh, kind of tree. And I was like, I don't know. I guess you're the one I'm looking at today. So I'm really grateful that tree was the one that kind of called out to me. And I do see the pileated likes to go over there. I've seen it a few times come, and that's often one of the stops for it. So I don't see a lot of other birds hang out there, but I do know the pileated likes that tree. So, which now makes me wonder if it actually is in the process of dying, or who knows. I don't know how much they prefer the dead and dying to like the alive trees. I haven't really focused on noticing that all that much. I was curious about that. So anyway, that was my experience. Anyone else want to share something that they perceived or picked up while they were watching and listening? No? All right. Well, thanks for joining again, everybody. And yeah, I don't think we have any holidays coming up, so we'll be good to go. Oh, wait. Oh, that's right. Julia, you were going to share. Yeah. So Julia emailed me and told me from our conversation last week, we talked about birds' feet and do birds' feet get cold and all that. And so she did some research like that day and was like, this is too cool to wait. Check it out. And so I asked her if she would share it with you all today. So Julia, take it away.
Okay, so Kristi had mentioned that birds will perch with just one foot down and pull one up to against their body to warm up, and then they'll trade off. And sometimes when they perch, they can sink down around their feet and have feathers around their feet to help warm them up. But this is like the coolest thing I've learned in a long time. I'm just going to, this is from the Cornell website, so it's reliable. And I'm just going to read it. Birds also have a counter-current heat exchange system in their legs and feet. The blood vessels going to and from the feet are very close together. So blood flowing back to the body is warmed by blood flowing to the feet. The newly cooled blood in the feet lowers heat loss from the feet, and the warmed blood flowing back into the body prevents the bird from becoming chilled. And because birds' circulation is so fast, blood doesn't remain in the feet long enough to freeze. And then there was this diagram that I copied out, you can see over here where there's the red part going down, then it turns blue, and then it's warmed back up. That's the visual of that.
Yeah.
I just think that is the coolest,
That is cool. Thank
fascinating
you.
adaptation I have learned about in a long time. I know our bodies are tremendously complicated, you know, if you start thinking about what's going on in our bodies, but wow.
Yeah, wow is right. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions that they want to add on to that or share or ask Julia about? Now that she's the expert in bird feet.
It's
Well, what does the bird's feet get cold?
well, the bird's feet are cold, but mostly, yeah, the surface. Okay, so the surface temperature of their toes may be barely above freezing, even as the bird maintains its core body temperature above 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
But most birds don't succumb to frostbite because there's so little fluid in the cells of the feet, and their feet are mostly tendons and bones with little muscle or nerve tissue.
Okay.
Okay, so they get cold, but they don't freeze because
Yeah, they don't care.
yeah. Well, that's kind of relative.
Well, there's there's little nerve tissue, so they probably don't sense.
They don't feel
Yes,
it.
of course they care if they're pulling their foot up, but they're not going to get frostbite.
It's not going to freeze all the way because it's staying warmer. Okay, got it.
Jacinth,
So
you
I
have your
assume,
hand raised. Oh, one thing, Linda. Jacinth, go for it.
oh, just real quick. I assume that when they're perched, like roosting, that this process continues to happen and that prevents them from getting, like frozen locked to the perch that where they're roosting at night, right? I mean, if they happen to be out.
Zoom, yeah.
Well, and also what Julia was saying is, have you ever seen it like where a bird, even though like they might have, I'll do it like this, they might have like long legs, that they can like puff their feathers up and kind of like cover their body with their
Oh,
legs
yeah.
with their feathers, you know? So maybe when they're roosting, they kind of hunker down a little bit more and their feathers might cover more of their feet as well, you know?
Yeah, I bet that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Good
just
point.
go for it.
Wow.
Thank you, Julia. That was so interesting. I was wondering if it mentioned anything about antifreeze proteins in their circulation.
Oh, it
Because I
didn't.
think I've heard something about that for ducks.
Well, this is from, if you go to allaboutbirds.org, that's the Cornell website, and you can punch in any question and search for it, and there will be several articles about it. And I say to my students, that's a place, I say, can you believe everything you see on the internet? And they say, no. I said, this you can rely on. I think the Cornell site is really reliable information. Wouldn't you say that, Kristi?
Yeah,
That
for sure. And but one thing I would say though is it is very reliable and it's definitely data driven. The only thing I'd say to people is just because they say it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. You know, just because someone did a study and found one thing doesn't mean that if you're having an observation that might be counter to that, that your observations are any less valuable than what someone else who just sat out there maybe for the same amount of time as you know what I mean? Like, I don't want people to discount their own experiences. And I know you're not saying that, but I want to boost everyone up to value what you do in your time in nature as much as the people who are doing it, with letters and things like that after their name. Because I think it's equally as valuable the time that you all are putting in and whatnot. But yes, absolutely. Cornell, they're one of the first places I go to look when I'm looking for information, or if I'm trying to find like a bird photo of like a particular age of a bird. I'm not just going to Google that online because all sorts of people are going to post like, oh yeah, this is like a juvenile, whatever, Bonaparte skull or something. And it's just like, who knows what that person thought that bird was. But if you go to Cornell's site, then you know that they're saying this bird is a juvenile Bonaparte skull. It's going to be a juvenile Bonaparte skull. So yeah, in that capacity, I definitely do rely on their I trust them more than other sites for sure. Yeah, absolutely, Julia. Anyone else have any thoughts or questions about bird feet? This is fun. Thank you so much. I love
Yeah.
when you all like take like one of our bits of conversation and then just sort of run with it. So maybe Jacinth, if you're gonna get curious about the antifreeze and the bird's feet, let us know next time you come back because this is really fun to continue these conversations and I feel like we all get to learn from that. Yeah, Della, go for it.
Yeah, this is not about bird feet, but I did want to say I can't wait for the bird song class to come up because yesterday, birding along the ocean, I heard white-crowned sparrows singing their hearts out, and
Oh,
and so far, and also the song sparrows, and so far. They've just been doing those cheeps, the little pip sounds, and now it's a full-blown song. And so anyway, looking forward to your class.
I'm still muted, sorry. Thank you. So am I. I know. I'm gonna I sent out an early reminder to anyone on the wait list that they could sign up and I'm gonna today it's on my list of things to do to release it to the public for like an early bird sign up because I know it's the same thing around here now that it's getting a little bit warmer. At least the last 2 days were very cold for South Carolina, but now it's going to get ridiculously warm. And this morning I was hearing spring bird songs, and the pileated was calling, and I was just like, oh my gosh, you guys, hang on, it's only just still January, you know? But yeah, I feel like the birds, as soon as it starts to warm up just a little bit, they start to feel it, and it's just like they can't help themselves, you know? So they're a good reminder for me that like, yeah, the class is going to start soon enough. So yeah, so I'll send information out for everybody about the class. It is one of my favorite classes to teach, and we have tons of fun and learn all sorts of amazing things. So yeah, I hope you all join us. Thanks, Della, for that. I'm glad to hear about the bird singing. I wasn't sure if it was just where I am, but it's nice to hear about other places too. Yeah, thanks for that. All right, y'all. So nice to visit with you all this long today, and I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful week and continue to make friends with that tree of yours.
thank you very much.
All right. Okay, take good care, everybody. See you next time.
Okay.